Welcome back to the Aikman Bros podcast. I'm James Aikman and my brother,
Andrew Aikman.
So today we're going to kind of get into a few questions about ourselves. I don't know if you want to start with your favorite movie or if you want me to start.
Well, I have a few, so it's kind of based on genre. So probably like action, John Wick is really high up there. Really good movie. From a sci-fi standpoint, a little bit of a classic now, but Aliens is almost the perfect type of movie. And then another action would be 300 would be another one pretty high up there.
And one thing to understand about movies with Andy is he's very picky about his movies. So he has reviewers that he listens to. If they say the movie is not good, he won't go see it. Or
That's the whole reason.
I'll still go see it.
That's the whole reason why you take the time to research your viewers.
So
save time.
if Andy likes a movie, it must be really good in his mind. All the movies he listed off, I've watched them, loved them. Probably my favorite movie would be Braveheart. So Aikman is Scottish, and so I've always thought that was an awesome movie with Mel Gibson. So Braveheart would probably be my number one movie. Bucket list items, so something on the list that we want to do. You go first. Any thoughts? So I don't really have a bucket list. In August of 2014, I was going to be going to Africa, and one of the things that I was really considering doing was going over to Cape Town and going in a cage, but going swimming with great white sharks. I don't want to swim with sharks or anything like that, but I thought that'd be a very unique thing to do, kind of face my fear kind of thing. And so I always thought going cage diving with sharks would be something that I would be open to.
I feel like if you're going to Africa, like the safari route would be more so.
Yeah, well, that's why I'd be going to Africa. But I wanted to. Yeah, so for the record, it would be a photo safari, just in case anybody's wondering. But over there, you kind of get treated like kings, but do a little side trip while over there and go with the sharks.
You touched on it with the movies, but it would be somewhat ideal. It won't ever happen because I hate flying, so it probably won't ever happen. But to go to Scotland as well, in terms of trying to maybe do a little more of a deeper dive into our family history and see if there's any connections still over there, would be kind of neat to do and explore.
The Aikman clan had a castle. It's probably called Rebel by now. But
It's actually open.
Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast.
But yeah, bucket lists are tough when you don't like to leave the property. So
I think he's probably flown like 3 times in his entire life.
yeah, like my bucket list would be more so to have our to-do list here, not have anything on it. That would be like my dream.
If he gets on a plane, he needs a paper bag to breathe into. Kind of freaks out.
I guess some of the other things would be like some of the different museums across the United States, more so that have pieces from a company called Blue Rhino that does some pretty incredible kind of dioramas and life-size type sculptures of present and also prehistoric animals. So kind of making out a list of those type of things and doing a little bit of a road trip, I guess, would be pretty neat little trip to do. On top of that would be nice research for the museum.
I'll just see how many they have compared to what we have, to be another way to confirm that our museum has more pieces than any other place out there.
Australia would be nice, but I feel like there's too many lethal animals over there. It's not worth the trip.
When would you time travel to? So I don't know. I'm kind of torn on this. I would love to see dinosaurs, prehistoric animals in real life, but I'd also love to be there and see just how the animals got loaded onto the ark. I know we have a hard enough time as it is getting animals in for deworming 3 times a year, and to watch animals coming up to the ark would be
Well, I would need a
really
little
interesting.
clarification of this question. So, like, is your machine able to then time travel back? So, like, if you went to a place that didn't have electricity, would you be able to come back from it?
Like Daniel's house?
Yeah.
Daniel, he's wondering if the Amish guy has been with us from the beginning. He's kind of become our adopted brother. But he's got a generator.
I've seen too many memes where people time travel because they want to see dinosaurs, and then when they're ready to leave, they go to plug in the time machine. Obviously, there's nothing there to plug into, so I don't know if I would necessarily want to be stranded in the Jurassic or Cretaceous period. But obviously, if that's not the issue in terms of this time machine is a two-way thing, then yeah, anything kind of prehistoric, and that would be kind of where I would go. Basically, before humans. Basically.
So kind of in our last episode, we started doing this kind of animal of the week type of thing. And so this week we're touching on our wolf dogs. So I'm kind of going to let Andy take the ball on it. The wolf dogs are his babies. He's probably why we have 13 of them at the park. So I'll let him kind of talk about them a little bit.
So kind of how we got into wolf dogs, the first 2 that we took on, it was set up to where it was a foster type of situation. So with pretty much all of our wolf dogs, the conversation starts out with they are in a position where if they don't find placement, they will more than likely get put down. That's kind of the running theme when it comes to wolf dogs in general, and kind of sanctuaries like us when we get the calls. So this situation was a little unique. Family was kind of needing some time to reassess. They were in the process of moving from a state that was legal to have wolf dogs to a state that wasn't legal, and they weren't sure if they were going to kind of keep that as a long-term type of thing. So it was under the assumption we would bring on these two wolf dogs, male and female, Max and Lucy, for X amount of months. We thought it was a good way for us to kind of get a little familiar, a little more experience with wolf dogs, and at the same time kind of know that, there is a finite end date to it. Kind of the issue that we ran into right off the bat was we kind of didn't ask the right questions, a little bit of a naiveness on our part. The female Lucy, when she arrived at the park, we found out about a week later that she was already pregnant before she even got to the park. So
either they didn't know or they didn't tell us that she had been in heat and was potentially pregnant.
So that was a little bit of we had to kind of think through that. Basically, we don't necessarily condone wolf dogs as pets, just because there are so many that, for one reason or another, they get in the hands of animal control and they do get put down.
Because it didn't sign. There's probably 300 to 400,000.
Yeah, so
wolf dogs in the U.S.
Wolf dogs, along with a lot of other kind of semi-exotic and more pet-like, they're very popular in the pet trade. So, kind of statistic that has been thrown around for a few years now. On average, about 120,000 new wolf dogs are born in the United States. The bad side of that statistic, by the time the 120,000 turn the age of 2, close to 80% of them have already been euthanized. And that is due, for the most part, to the homeowners. Wolf dogs are a little more smarter, a little more determined to get out of their enclosures. So usually if they kind of find a way to scale their backyard fence or dig underneath the fence, that's kind of when you start getting the issue of how they were actually socialized. So 9 out of 10 times, not the greatest kind of interaction if a neighbor has a dog and a wolf dog gets out. So that is kind of a common thing that animal control gets brought in. Or in extreme cases, if it is a higher content wolf dog, the actual neighbors themselves are potentially harmed or kind of endangered. So usually when something like that happens, it's pretty much an automatic put down. There's kind of nothing that anything can be done about if they actually do harm another animal or a person.
Well, on top of that, in a lot of states, it's illegal for a hybrid or a wolf dog to go to the shelter. So if animal control can't find a home for them,
Yeah, they legally can't try to adopt it out.
Illinois is one of those states.
Yeah, so here in the state of Illinois, it is illegal to have wolf dogs. Just like with anything else, though, people, they kind of do whatever they do what they want to do. And we've kind of had the gamut of where some of the ones we've rescued, amazing homeowners, and just for one reason or another, they were needing to kind of reevaluate or kind of see what was the best kind of long-term solution for their dog. So that's kind of why they came to our park. And then we've also had ones where, like I said, we've actually had contacts with animal control, like out of Ohio, that kind of, if you get someone that is really dedicated, really passionate about trying to find places to rehome wolf dogs once they get them in, not the general public, but more so sanctuaries, then they do go out of their way to try to do the research, try to contact those places to try to place them before they ultimately have no choice but to put them down. So that is kind of the majority of where ours have come from, is those type of situations. But like I said, going back to the initial two, so when we found out that she was pregnant, we kind of had to make a decision. What are we going to do with the litter when it comes? Are we going to kind of go against what we feel is the right thing to do and, try to sell the babies, or are we going to keep them? So we ultimately decided that whatever size the litter was going to be, we will keep them, and that is going to be the first permanent wolf dogs that will stay here at the park. So about probably 2 months later, she gave birth to 6 females and 2 males. So we were right in the thick of things right from the get-go in terms of going from 0 wolf dogs to pretty much 8 wolf dogs that
So we were thinking 3 or 4
for the rest of their lives. Yep.
8 came out.
So they were born in November. Kind of I had been able to make a pretty good relationship with Lucy, especially the female, and Max to a certain extent. Max had a personality of being very protective of Lucy. So that with any sort of wolf dog, regardless of if it's low content, mid content, high content, you always have to remember that it's not just a normal dog. So pack mentality is a big thing that comes into play. Territorial is another big thing. So Max was one of those that he would like to challenge at any time he would go into his enclosure. So just always something you have to be mindful of and make sure you kind of never do any quick movements with any sort of wolf dog. But also turning your back to a wolf dog is not a good idea. So just kind of more or less common sense type of things goes a long ways when it comes to not only wolf dogs, but a lot of animals in general. So we ended up, we knew we wanted to do a lot of socialization with these 8 that we were going to keep, just again, kind of trying to make sure that they were going to be as socialized as possible when they got older, so we didn't have any sort of issues with them. I will mention, so probably Max and Lucy, they would be lower content wolf dogs. It's kind of one of those things, some people say certain things, but until you actually have a DNA test, a blood test with these guys, you never quite know what the content is made of. So you kind of have to go by the characteristics that they have. So the 8 that were born here, they were on the lower side when it comes to the content, more dog in them than wolf. So that definitely helped. Instead of having 8 high contents, having 8 low contents. But again, you still have the pack mentality when it comes to any sort of wolf dog. So something we always kind of had to keep in mind. But probably around 3 months of age, I think, is when, or no, 3 weeks. We started having issues where Max would actually take the runt and take them out of the shelter that they were in and kind of just throw them out there. With it being at this point, now we're getting into December, it was getting to the point where we were getting very nervous that if he would do it, kind of last time that we check on him in the late evening and not see him until the next morning, that runt might not survive. So we decided we were going to pull the 8 and go ahead and start the socialization kind of a little early. Normally, I think the initial goal, we were going to wait till about 4 to 5 weeks before we kind of took him in and started to do that socialization. So
I think he even took out 1 or 2 at different times.
Yeah,
And
the one he really focused on was Echo, one of the males, was the one that pretty much consistently every day throughout the day he would kind of pull them out of the litter and just kind of toss them out outside and then go back in with the other ones. So common thing that, wolves do out in the wild in terms of, more or less survival of the fittest, trying to make sure that the pack itself survives, type of mentality. So probably at that point, like I said, from December till about, I'd say middle of January, they were actually, all 8 of them were in my house. Would not recommend that to anyone. With 8 of them, it doesn't matter. Like if we would check on them probably every few hours. Like at this point, they were eating probably 4 to 5 times a day. Milk is what they were eating. So feeding time was extremely messy. Took a lot to kind of clean up after feeding time. But in between that, from a mess standpoint, if one would go to the bathroom, more than likely that would trigger at least a couple more to go. And then with them just kind of running all over the place, you can kind of put 2 and 2 together in terms of there's a lot of baths that were going on kind of those early months just to kind of keep everyone as clean as possible. But at about the end of January, February, they were getting a little too big for my house, so we had a pen that was opened up in one of the barns, so we kind of moved them into the barn for a very short while because it was even more difficult to kind of keep the whole enclosure clean and stuff like that. So
added a slight smell to the barn on top of what it normally smells like.
Yes. So it just kind of worked out that around that time to where we were trying to figure out where they were going to go after the barn, the time with the mother and the father, Max and Lucy, was basically coming to an end. So the previous owners came back and got them, and it kind of was just perfect timing in with us. We were able to then move the 8 into where they were born and where their mom and dad used to be. So it was, for the 8 of them at the time with their size and stuff, it was more than adequate with space. And kind of, again, with our naiveness back then, we were kind of thinking it's going to be so cool as they grow up. We're going to have this giant super pack. We'll kind of build a permanent, big, large enclosure for all of them to kind of be in and have that available so the public can see them. The thing about wolf dogs is once they hit a certain point, usually right around the 9 months to a year range, personalities start to change. So for whatever reason, wolf dogs, females tend to not get along with one another, and also males to a certain extent, but sisters especially, they go through phases where they absolutely hate one another. So that is what ultimately just started us to have to separate the 8 into smaller different packs. And that's kind of what started how we got the 5 packs. Now, for most of all the packs that we have here, there's at least 1 or 2, if not 3, of those original 8 kind of sprinkled in with the other ones that we've rescued over the years.
And 4 out of the 5.
Yeah, so 4 out of the 5 of them actually have kind of those females and males. What we kind of determined with that, we were kind of able to figure out that if you have a real strong alpha, so a real strong male, he can handle 2 females. That's, if you have to go more than just a pair, 3 is kind of the max that we go. Anything past that, especially if you have more than 2 females will gang up on another female, and it just does not end well.
So it's like high school drama at one point. Every other day he's coming and telling me these 2 females are attacking this one, next day it'd be different ones. And it was...
Yeah, so the hierarchy of a pack, even for wolf dogs, wild wolves out in the wild, their packs can get up to 30 members, and each one of them have a specific role. But even wolf dogs, their pack mentality is constantly changing. So that was one thing that, because we had that right from the get-go, we were kind of thrown into the fire, but we were able to really navigate and kind of get a real clear image moving forward with any additional ones that we would save. What is kind of the setup that we want to do and what's the setup we don't want to do. So that was kind of the initial 8. Then we took Shadow would have been one that was previous owners did an awesome job socializing him. Never had any issues with them, but they were in the process of also moving from the country to in town. Shadow is probably more of that 50-50 range, so he's a little higher content than the 8 that were born here. He does like the howl, so they did the responsible thing before they even got to a situation where neighbors would potentially get kind of concerned and potentially call animal control. They kind of did their research and were able to find us. So we were able, it just so happened at that time, we were looking for kind of a male. We were transitioning some more of those females, kind of separating them. So we had one female in particular that just didn't seem to really like any of her siblings at all. Her name is Ryder. She's a little more laid back than her siblings, so she doesn't necessarily is as energetic as possible. So it was actually a perfect fit with Shadow being, at the time he came here, I think he would have been 11 or 12, probably.
He'll be 14.
Yeah, it'll be 14 in October. So he was definitely an older, he was kind of past his time of wanting to deal with drama when it comes to wolf dogs. So he kind of just wanted to find someone that he could kind of chill and relax with. So it was a perfect fit. So they've kind of been together ever since, and they will remain together until, for the rest of both of their lives, more or less. So that was one that was brought in. Another one was Zeus. So Zeus is our biggest one. Again, probably 50-50 or a little higher range, but probably around 145 pounds. When he stands on his back 2 legs, he is taller than me, so I'm about 6'2". So it just gives you a little bit of height.
He can put his paws on my shoulders pretty easily.
Yeah, so he was one. He was living downtown Tuscola, so a town about 10 minutes north of us. He was actually one that animal control did get picked up. One of our local vets actually contacted us. They knew, obviously, that we had wolf dogs. They had been contacted by Douglas County to set up the euthanasia for a wolf dog, for Zeus. And so we were able to get a little bit of heads up, reach out to animal control, and actually kind of intervene before that kind of happened.
So I think the vet called us on a Monday, and the appointment was scheduled for Wednesday.
Yeah. So it's kind of the theme with wolf dogs. You don't have very much time when you get an initial email to come in to decide if there's a way that you can actually help and bring it. But that was one that we were fortunate enough. Again, we were kind of in that transition phase where we had kind of some females that we were needing a counterpart with. So Zeus was definitely one. He had some personality issues. I don't know in terms of his. We don't know really anything about backstories other than like Shadow. Obviously, we have a good relationship with his previous owner, but a lot of the rescues we bring in, it's hit or miss if they have any sort of back history with them. And if it is, it's normally not the best. So Zeus has gotten better over the years, but he was another one, especially around feeding time, very aggressive. And he kind of liked to challenge to a certain extent. So with Zeus, especially just with his size, it wouldn't take much for you to go in there and lose your balance. And it takes hardly anything for that prey instinct, prey drive to kick in when it comes to some of these guys. So again, another one that with some of the keepers that wouldn't see him on a regular basis, always a good idea to go in with the second person, just kind of eyes are in the back of your head. So he would have been one that was brought in. We were able to rescue 2 out of Alpha Nova. We were
Alpha up on the screen.
Yep. So Alpha Nova are definitely by far our highest content. So probably that 75-80% range. They are ones that there's noticeable difference not only in their appearance, but also like their diet is a little different than the lower contents. They need a little more kind of raw meat in their diet. And then along with the kibble that we use, a little less kibble. We've noticed over the years that a little more raw meat kind of evens them out a little bit when it comes to their digestive system.
Well, wolves in the wild, they howl and they growl, but they don't bark. Alpha and Nova are the only 2 wolf dogs at the park that do not bark. So
so all their vocalization is kind of more consistent with wolves out in the wild. So those are ones. So the story that was told to us, they initially came out of Pennsylvania. Their previous owner was a big drug dealer over there. Got it for the sole purpose of breeding them to sell the pups that they would produce. Animal control said that they were in basically 4x4 kennels, and that's what they were in more or less 24/7. So not the most ideal situation whatsoever. animal control in Pennsylvania, transferred them to an animal control shelter in Ohio, and that is through a long line of phone chain. They were able to find us. So me and my dad, we actually met them in Indianapolis a few years ago to kind of pick them up and bring them here to the park. So again, 2 other ones that are extremely food aggressive. Nova, the female, has gotten a lot better with her initial manners. So when we got them to the park, our vet thought right around 9 months. So unfortunately, from a training aspect, a real key time for a wolf dog is between 6 months to 12 months is kind of where they really learn some of those basic manners. So at 9 months and with the living conditions they were in, pretty much didn't have hardly any manners at all. Obviously didn't know any sort of cadence of sitting or waiting for you to set the food bowl down. So those initial first few months with them, I forget how many t-shirts they shredded up. Not so much that they were being aggressive towards me, just that they didn't know any better. Excited. But we kind of knew pretty much instantly when it came to feeding time, that excitement was a little more intense. So like right now with Alpha, we actually have to shift him kind of around in a certain way, so we don't actually have the food with us when he is in with us, just because it got a little too intense, I guess, from their kind of play bites and then letting us know that they want that food immediately. So all wolf dogs, just like with people, they all have their own unique kind of personalities and quirks and all that stuff. So it just kind of, it takes time to establish not only a relationship, a trustworthy relationship, but then also kind of takes time, and you kind of have to go at their own pace when it comes to teaching things, new things. So like I said, Nova by far, like she'll sit, we can go in with her and drop her food down, and she won't kind of do what she did when she first came here. So she's kind of come the longest, and Alpha's definitely better. He will sit to a certain extent, but those 2 especially are ones that we kind of are always a little more mindful of. Just kind of rule of thumb, the higher you get up with the wolf contents, at least in our experience, the more intense, the more extreme kind of a play bite is. So the more pressure that they kind of exert when they're just kind of playing around with you. So like Shadow has a little bit more of a play bite than what those 8 that were born here. And then Alpha Nova, a little more intense than even Shadow to a certain extent. So again, just kind of going back, using that common sense, no fast movements, nothing that could purposely trigger that prey drive is always the best thing to kind of keep in mind when it comes to those guys. And then finally, the last one that we would have rescued would have been Willow. She came out of West Virginia. So again, the backstory on her, from what we were told, she was initially raised as a bait dog for a dog fighting ring. Kind of one of those things that kind of get the main event riled up, I guess. Owner that we got her from, rescued her from that situation, got her kind of nursed back to health, going in the right direction, and then she started to have issues with her neighbors not liking a wolf dog next to them. And it got to the point where the neighbors were actually trying to end the situation by throwing dog treats that had been poisoned with certain stuff. And so just kind of situation kind of deteriorated fairly rapidly. So again, through the contacts that we had made with Alpha and Nova, that's how they were able to reach to us. And so Willow would have, what year would that have been? 2018 is when she would have came. And that would have made the 13 that we have here. And at the moment, in terms of the kind of the enclosure setup that we have, and just kind of the different packs that we have, that's the max that we can do at the moment. We are in the process of kind of redoing our wolf dog areas to where right now, just because of those real short timelines that we had with some of these, we kind of had to find a place that was the best and easiest to build something, and then that's where we built it. So it didn't really have a rhyme or reason. So right now, kind of our wolf packs are kind of divided over a lot of the different areas down south of the park. So not the most efficient way to kind of do things. We have smaller wolf runs, and then we also have larger areas that are actually on display to the public. So it was a little easier, especially when the 8 were younger. We could transfer them a little more, but now that kind of relationships have been established, one trigger for kind of potential fighting is kind of a new environment. And because we have to actually, potentially walk them, 200, 300, 500 feet to that new environment, there is a lag time of just simply being able to open a door and letting all three of them go at the same time, explore the same area. If you have to do it in kind of sequences, you start getting that territorial thing. The first one you took in might kind of go after the last one that you bring in. So it just got to the point where it wasn't feasible to kind of rotate the packs from the smaller kind of runs that we have to the larger area. So one of the nice things about the new setup that we're going to do is it's all kind of in the same location. We'll have a common kind of corridor that will attach all the smaller wolf runs that are ideal for doing this sort of intense training, building those relationships, but it'll be attached to the larger areas so we can do a little more efficient way of kind of transferring the packs to enjoy the large space, and then we can kind of get a little better of a rotation going throughout the year to where all the packs here that we have will be able to kind of enjoy that larger space and stretch their legs out a little bit more. But kind of the ultimate goal for the wolf dogs in terms of future plans, ideally for me, the safest bet is pairing them up, male and female. Even with the threes, like I said earlier, if you have a strong alpha, he can handle kind of keeping two females in line. We've had situations where, for whatever reason that day or whatever, the male kind of wasn't on the job all the way or something like that. So we've had some close calls with potential fights starting. And so the simplest way to kind of prevent that from happening is just kind of dividing them out to the point where it's just a male and female, they're completely bonded, and we are able to kind of rotate around like that. So that is kind of, at least with me, that would be the ultimate goal of making sure that we are able to kind of safely and have wolf dogs here and not have to eliminate the possibilities of fighting them as much as possible.
Yeah. So as you can tell, Andy doesn't really care about the wolf dogs that much.
Yeah, so he had said, I'm 100% the reason why we have 13 wolf dogs. I'm also the reason why we don't have more wolf dogs, because unfortunately, I probably had to say no to close to 20 of them now. So it just gives you a little bit of an idea of how much of a demand it is to find permanent placement for wolf dogs. There's different sanctuaries all across the nation, and consistently, for the most part, all of those sanctuaries are almost always at max capacity, especially for like older wolf dogs. We never got a situation where it was puppies that wanted to come in or anything like that. But for whatever reason, puppies, everyone loves puppies. So those are the things that are really easy to find placements for homes for. It's the older ones that might have kind of the personality issues that, for the most part, don't have the best chances of finding kind of the permanent placement. But just like with any other animal here at the park, we look at it as, if we bring a wolf dog in, it's here for the rest of its life. So we have to also take that into consideration from a financial standpoint. I think with ours, on average, it's right around $1,500 per wolf dog, give or take, a year that's feeding. So I touched on it a little bit. Chicken is what we feed our wolf dogs, combined with a high protein kibble. For enrichment type things, we throw in, there's a few that we kind of have to go back and forth from chicken to hamburger. So we do kind of mix it up a little bit, and then any sort of enrichment thing, some of them absolutely love watermelon. So different sort of fruits and that kind of thing just kind of change their diet up a little bit. But all that costs money. So you times 1,500 times 13, how we have it now, it is a substantial dollar amount, yearly dollar amount. So we always have to kind of take that into consideration, not only the space and the time that needs to have them, but also making sure that we can financially support them for the rest of their lives. Because it's, at minimum, it's a 12-year commitment. And like I said, Shadow is going to be 14 years in October. Wolf dogs, probably on the high end, 16, 18 is a very old wolf dog. So it's not just a short-term commitment when we decide to bring on a wolf dog.
Yeah. So with that kind of wraps up our episode for this week. definitely stay tuned for next week. And we would encourage you guys, any questions, like the questions we went over in the beginning kind of came from viewers like you. So any questions that you have for us, put those in the comments, let us know, and we'll try to answer those each episode. So thanks a lot.